Hello, everybody, and welcome to Forever Sports. Very interesting press release earlier today. SA Rugby have officially met with Canal Plus to hold, inverted commas, fruitful discussions on the SuperSport partnership. And we've been waiting for something along these lines for quite a while with regards to how the Canal Plus takeover is going to affect SA Rugby. And not SA Rugby necessarily just the organization, but South African rugby, really, with regards to the broadcasting coverage and funding, really, of our South African rugby programs. And when I'm talking about the broadcast of your Curry Cup programs, your Varsity Cups, your Craven Weeks, the likes of that, SuperSport schools, for example, we have one of the biggest broadcaster-based partnerships in world rugby with regards to SuperSport and the SA Rugby kind of being in bed together, in inverted commas, but having a partnership which allows SA Rugby to continue and to promote so many of its programs, and Canal Plus coming in and doing a lot of scaling back and a lot of repackaging of things and kind of restructuring SuperSport was always going to have a very big impact on this relationship. And we kind of have to sit there and wait to see, well, is this going to be a good impact, a bad impact? Are we going to see less rugby? Are we going to see more rugby? And there are no decisions being taken right now, or being announced rather, at least, but the conversations have taken place, and that's what we're going to get into. So before we get into it, please do smash a like on the video. Please do subscribe to the channel as well. So this is the article that was basically said, and they started by saying they have discussed and planned a continued partnership with SuperSport following fruitful and productive engagement in Johannesburg last week. And they basically said that the SA Rugby executives met with the Canal Plus group counterparts at the offices, where they discussed strategic plans to bring rugby fans and viewers close to the game through the existing broadcast partnership. And basically, a lot of it was information sharing, apparently. And the goal is partners delivering the best possible rugby viewing experience to viewers and DStv subscribers across the continent. This includes the immersive experience as well as storytelling, which brings viewers more of the sports content they desire beyond the live action. The big thing they spoke about is that SA Rugby are preparing to stage some of the most exciting rugby matches in history with regards to the incoming Greatest Rivalry Tour, obviously your nation's champion. And basically what they sort of spoke about is obviously kind of what the plan is with regards to how the partnership works, what are some of the plans now for the future, and kind of where it's going to go. And what's quite interesting is that Rendani Ramova, who was the SuperSport CEO and is now the Canal Plus Director for Sports Content English and Portuguese-speaking Africa, basically said, as part of Canal Plus Africa and the Canal Plus Group, we are proud to be able to enhance our existing partnership with SA Rugby. They said rugby plays an important role in our sports package we deliver to our Canal Plus Africa SA Pay TV audience, and the partnership with SA Rugby is crucial to delivering the very best in local and international rugby. So what they basically sort of spoke about and what they kind of mentioned is that, and what I'm kind of sort of gauging is that I think that Springbok coverage, for example, theoretically should only get better. And I think, when they spoke about more storytelling, we might see more sort of chasing the sun type of content. The documentaries are in. Your storytelling content is very popular at the moment. And I think that they'll definitely look to leverage that. What this sort of doesn't really speak to and engage, and I think that's where a lot of the worry comes, is what is going to happen with local rugby broadcasting. Canal Plus is scaling back. At the end of the day, multi-choice was bleeding money, and we've known this for a long time. Packages are too expensive, subscriber base is down, lots of different programs aren't really making money, and SuperSport continue to always be, the golden goose that brought in the money, and especially the Springboks, the likes of that, were a huge part of SA Rugby, of DStv doing so well. They had the likes of a Chase in the Sun, they had the rights for the Springboks that they could leverage to really build up their subscriber base. And there's always been talk about the potential unbundling of sort of the sports packages on the DStv into its own SuperSport package, or maybe even rugby packages and the likes of this. But the problem comes now is that Canal Plus don't have a gross South African sport initiative, really. They are a corporate group, now an international group. Their project is quite simple: make money. And in whatever way is possible. So where the sort of statement doesn't really sort of speak to is what is going to happen to our local tournaments. Because we don't get to watch Currie Cup second division down the road and the likes of that? Are we going to be able to see, your Craven Weeks, your junior festivals? In the last sort of 4 to 5 years, we've probably broadcasted, or we see more rugby being broadcast on SuperSport schools than ever before, and arguably probably more rugby in South Africa than anywhere else in the world, because SuperSport leveraged that, and that's a big part for them. Now, the big question is Canal Plus going to see the value in this? Are we going to see the value in broadcasting Griffins versus Eastern Province? Even your Pumas versus the Griquas in the Currie Cup Premier Division. Are we going to see the value in broadcasting Varsity Shield? Even Varsity Cup, maybe. I think Varsity Cup's still obviously popular enough, but Varsity Shield. Because when they start scaling back on expense and the likes of that, these are the sort of competitions which could come under scrutiny. Craven Week, for example, are we going to see that happening? And I don't think right now we've got obviously a definitive answer, but it is interesting that they are sort of very much talking about the fact that they are having these conversations. And I think that we're going to see a lot more Springbok content. So if you're a Springbok fan, I don't think you have to stress about, we're never going to have a Springbok game not being broadcast on SuperSport. I think that's never going to happen, at least not in the short term. But where it could be very well be a problem is, I think if you are a Pumas fan, for example, or I don't think necessarily you're going to see things like the Gold Cup being broadcast. I don't think we're necessarily going to see our junior tournaments being broadcast, because I think they'll start to have to look at a literal return on investment. And is there a return on investment in broadcasting a Lions versus Bulls under 21 game held at Loftus B Field? Because those will be the conversations now. Is there return on investment there? And I think that obviously there were agreements in place that SuperSport would broadcast these tournaments as part of their partnership with the Springboks, which then allows them to get access to the Springboks and have your chasing to the sun. Be the broadcaster for them. Leverage one of the biggest international rugby brands in the world, arguably the biggest, to make themselves relevant, to make them lots of money, to put them as a key broadcaster. But as Canal Plus start to really more infiltrate, inverted commas, or take over and take more on and start making more of the decisions, for example, they've already spoken about the fact that the programming decisions will not be taken by by people in South Africa. It's going to be based in France, and that's where they're going to be making the decisions. So, when they looking at these contracts, are they going to sit there and say, well, we need to have our 19 competitions broadcast? I don't think they will. I think they'll look at what's making money, what's worth it, what's not worth it, what's a good spend, what's not a good spend. And I don't think we're going to see a lot of rugby competitions on. I think we are going to see less rugby on SuperSport than we have previously, the more the Canal Plus starts to take over, because it's going to be kind of simple feasibility study, and it might not be the best answers. So it's interesting times. We obviously have to wait and see exactly what this will mean. As I said, from a Springbok fan point of view, you don't have to worry. Springbok content will still be very much a big part of SuperSport's strategy. It's the other competitions that might suffer, and what's going to happen with regards to our pathway programs, with regards to our community rugby, if we don't have that support. There are players playing in these under 20 competitions or in the second divisions or first divisions that get noticed because they can get broadcast. And we get to sort of see an amazing try on the weekend. You go, hang on, who's this guy? And then they dig a bit deeper, and maybe he gets a contract, and maybe he continues to go do good things. We might lose that if we start to lose the kind of media attention and exposure that we have currently got on our minor competitions. So it's an interesting time for South African rugby. It's also, I think, for me, an opportunity, hopefully, for SABC to start getting a bit more involved, and maybe start taking more ownership with regards to competitions that might become available. I don't think they necessarily will, because unfortunately, public broadcast is not in a particularly good space. But we are in for an interesting few years. What are your thoughts? Let me know down in the comments below. Smash a like on the video. Subscribe to the channel as well. Thank you very much for watching. My name is Steve. I'll chat to you soon.